a statement by the Registrar of the Court, Mr. Osvaldo Zavala-Giller, and then a presentation by the Chair of the Committee on Budget and Finance, Ms. Monica Sanchez-Izquierdo. I draw your attention to the document before the Assembly, in particular the following documents. The proposed program budget of the International Criminal Court for 2025, document ICC-ASP23/10. The report of the Committee on Budget and Finance on the work of its 43rd session, document ICC-ASP23/5. The report of the Committee on Budget and Finance on the work of its 44th session, document ICC-ASP/23/15, and the report on the Committee on Budget and Finance on the work of its 45th session, document ICC-ASP/23/25. Additional relevant documentation is indicated in the annotated list of items on the provisional agenda, ICC-ASP/23/1/addition 1. I now invite the Registrar of the Court, Mr. Osvaldo Zavala-Giller, to present the Court's proposed program budget for 25. You have the floor, Mr. Registrar.
Your Excellency, President of the Assembly of States Parties, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, it is a great privilege to address you today. These annual sessions represent a key moment in the relation between the Court and States Parties, one where we have the profound opportunity to listen to States Parties, valuing your steadfast support, understanding your concerns, and following your thoughtful guidance. Over the years together, we have witnessed successes and shared in the collective aspiration for justice that defines the mandate of the International Criminal Court. The Court did not emerge in isolation. It was established with a clear and solemn purpose entrusted by you, the States Parties, to deliver justice through the robust application of the Rome Statute system, and to provide a permanent mechanism for addressing the gravest crimes of concern to the international community as a whole. In that context, please allow me to align myself to the powerful statement delivered by the President of the Court on 2 December 2024. We are facing and troubling an unprecedented new reality, where the Court has been subjected to increasingly severe attacks, seeking to undermine its legitimacy and its ability to meet its mandate, whether through coercive measures, threats, pressures, or even sanctions. Make no mistake, we remain undeterred in fulfilling our mandate as entrusted by our States Parties. At this moment, 9 of current or former elected officials have been subject to coercive measures from the Russian Federation. President Akane, Vice President Aitala, Second Vice President Alapini Gansu, Judge Ugalde, Judge Ibáñez Carranza, Judge Schmidt, Judge Ben Mahfoud, and former President Judge Hofmansky, as well as the prosecutor. Not only is this profoundly unacceptable, but a new reality which permeates into all aspects of the critical work of the Court. So, in preparing the proposed program budget for 2025, the Court has carefully prioritized resources deemed essential to fulfill this critical mandate. Since the executive summary presentation this summer, States Parties have had the opportunity to engage on this proposal. States Parties have first received the recommendations from the Committee on Budget and Finance at its 45th session in September, which have also provided the Court with guidance on our proposal. we have aimed to provide as much technical information on the different elements of the 2025 proposed budget in our engagement with states since then, in order to facilitate the consideration and the decision-making of states parties on the final figures for next year. As such, we understand the natural evolution of the budgetary process and stand ready to engage in a constructive and transparent manner. Here, allow me to acknowledge that the proposed 2025 budget we presented seeks a significant commitment from states parties. We are mindful of the financial realities faced by states parties, as well as the recent changes brought to the levels of the assessed contributions according to the preliminary UN scale of assessment. We know that each of your country's contributions represent investments in justice, accountability, and a Rome Statute system that serves humanity at its most critical times, such as those we're living today. The Court is sincerely thankful to you. The Court's proposed budget for 2025 amounts to 206.2 million euros, inclusive of the host state loan, representing an increase of approximately 19.1 million euros or 10.2% over the approved budget for 2024. This proposed increase consists of two principal elements: a significant allocation to address new requirements across investigations, judicial activities, security, and institutional efficiencies, and additional funding to address unavoidable inflationary pressures, including adjustments tied to the United Nations Common System costs. At the pretrial level, the Office of the Prosecutor faces unprecedented pressures, necessitating intensive investigative activities across multiple situations, often in environments where access to the territory and state cooperation are limited. This reality has profound implications for the overall Court's operations. From the OTP investigations to the other core-wide mandated activities, not least in terms of security requirements. Moreover, as reflected in the proposed program budget of the Office of the Prosecutor and in the registry, greater focus is placed on tracking and arrest activities, including through enhanced inter-organ coordination. These resources will allow for intensified activities in relation to a record number of warrants of arrest, whether public or under seal, available for execution. 30 individuals remain at large. We must do our utmost, the Court and its states parties, to meet this mandate. The conduct of fair and expeditious pretrial, trial, and appeal proceedings before the chambers remains at the core of the Court's mandate. The Court continues to work to expedite and streamline proceedings with due regard for the complexity of the cases, the number of witnesses, the volume of evidence, and the number of languages involved. 3 cases, the Yeka Tomanengaisona, the Abdel Al-Rahman, and the Said case, will be at various stages of the trial phase for all or part of 2025. And depending on the outcome of the trials and the timing of the trial judgments, the respective sentencing and reparations proceedings phases will commence next year. Increased hearing activities anticipated in Said, whereas the other cases are forecast to be in deliberations and judgment drafting phase. The Onwen, Ntaganda, Al-Mahdi, and Lubanga cases will continue in the implementation phase of reparations and require judicial oversight, in particular in terms of the review of detailed reports and submissions and the issuance of decisions. As a conviction has now been entered in the Al-Hassan case, it is expected that the reparations phase and associated field activities for identification of and consultation with victims will be ongoing before the trial chamber in 2025. The Trust Fund for Victims will be even more active in 2025 than this year, after 2 landmark reparation orders were issued in the Ntaganda case in the amount of $31.3 million for an estimated 10,500 victims, and in the Onwen case in the amount of 52.4 million euros for almost 50,000 victims. The scale and nature of these reparations have imposed high demands on the Trust Fund for Victims Secretariat in implementing them. Permettez-moi de m'adresser à vous.
If you would allow me to speak now in French. I would like to seize this opportunity to inform you that, at the request of the states parties for this session of the Assembly, the Registry is carrying out a consultation progress at internal level with a view to reviewing and developing a strategy on victims. The first part of this project will be presented to the working group of The Hague with our external partners, such as academic institutions, and the main objective is to establish a framework which makes it possible to understand international laws, but also to be a pioneering model for best practices where it concerns support and defense of victims. We envisage to do so by bringing the approach of the court together with the point of view of victims, by having guiding principles for the engagement with victims, for complex evaluation mechanisms for risk and protection. Furthermore, the strategy will be concentrated on lessons learned at the scale of the court, and in particular with regards to taking into account victims' comments to continually improve the approach and results.
Distinguished delegates, as requested by states parties and consistent with my personal commitment as registrar, the court has undertook a comprehensive and rigorous review of its needs in order to request additional resources only after findings, savings, efficiencies, and reductions in other areas. The results speak for themselves. Across the court, we achieved savings and efficiencies amounting to 3.9 million euros, or 2.2% of the total budget. Within the registry alone, we have made the total reductions of our budget baseline of 3.4 million euros. These were not easy decisions. They required careful prioritization and, in some cases, an acceptance of heightened risk in non-critical areas to protect the essential functions of the registry. Let me put this in perspective. While the total proposed investments for the registry stands at 9 million euros, it could be said that we have absorbed significant inflationary pressures amounting to 3.5 million euros through our own measures. Nevertheless, we operate in an increasingly complex and evolving global context. To respond effectively, our institution must continue to adapt, innovate, and strengthen, especially its internal culture, guided by the pillars of our core values. Achieving this goal requires strategic foresight, targeted investments, and a firm commitment to enhancing staff well-being, as underscored by the independent expert review and the recent poll surveys. In this regard, the registry is proposing an investment of 1.3 million euros to support key initiatives. This includes fostering a more inclusive workplace culture, improving recruitment processes, strengthening workforce planning and mobility, and advancing geographical representation and gender balance. Such efforts are integral to ensuring that our institutions remain agile, effective, and aligned with its fundamental values. The investments are critical. They ensure that the registry can serve as a reliable and efficient partner to the court's organ and stakeholders, including the states parties. At the same time, they underscores the ICC commitment to being a fair, progressive institution for its personnel, one that reflects the diversity and inclusivity that are hallmarks of justice everywhere. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, our budget for 2025 is intricately tied not only to our anticipated activities, but especially to the evolving security environment in which the court operates and will continue to operate next year. As you're all aware, the unprecedented global demands for justice have profoundly reshaped the role and standing of the International Criminal Court. On one hand, these calls have significantly enhanced the court's visibility and broadened its overall impact. But on the other hand, they have also magnified the risks, resistance, and challenges the court must confront. As I already alluded to, the ICC has become the target of unprecedented and serious threats. These threats are neither isolated nor do they emanate from a single entity. They arise from multiple sources, all seeking to undermine the court's mandate. The operational environment in which the ICC functions are today is far more hostile and divided than the one envisioned at the court's establishment 25 years ago. A time when a near unanimous international consensus propelled the momentum for accountability, justice, and progress. Threats of sanctions potentially encompassing the entire organization have become an enduring reality, undermining the very foundations of international justice. What was once sporadic has now become systemic. It is a new challenging reality for the court and its 124 states parties. We have recently welcomed Armenia as the newest member of the ICC family and also look forward to welcoming Ukraine at the start of next year. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, it is within this context and in response to these challenges that the court, and specifically the registry, has strategically focused its financial requirements to ensure that the court as a whole remains equipped to fulfill its mandate effectively. Security is not a mere operational requirement, but an existential matter. It is integral to the registry's core mandate and essential to the broader mission of the ICC. It safeguards the entirety of the institution and underpins its ability to deliver on our mandate. For 2025, the registry has proposed an increase of 5.7 million euros, or 5.9% over the 2024 approved program budget. Of this amount, 4.3 million is allocated exclusively to security measures. These resources are essential for implementing those critical projects, from the IT security blueprint to enhance technology security of our organization and of the information you provide to us. Madam President, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, we wanted to demonstrate that the court's responsibility is to put forward requirements that the court needs to carry out its important mandate. After all measures to find savings and efficiencies have been made, we have done that. My responsibility is also to ensure the long-term operational sustainability of our institution, as well as the effective and responsible management of the resources allocated to us. It is our joint responsibility to create a Rome Statute system which is purposeful and impactful in the international order of today and for the future of the world. I have full trust in your support, and I trust that you share the same confidence in our institution. Before I conclude, I would like to thank Ambassador Rodriguez for her leadership in the facilitation of the budget. Thank you very much. I wholeheartedly thank you.
I thank the Registrar for his important intervention. I now give floor to the Chair of the Committee on Budget and Finance, Ms. Mónica Sánchez Izquierdo. You have the floor.
Señora Presidenta.
President, Your Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, I have the honour of being able to speak to you today to present the main results of our debates in the session, for the fifth and sixth session of Budgets and Finance. Above all, I would like to take this opportunity to thank my colleagues from the Committee on Budget and Finance for their dedication and hard work during this year. Also to the representatives of the Court for their availability and their cooperation. My thanks and recognition goes particularly to the Executive Secretary of the CBF for the excellent quality of their work and the essential contribution they've made in fulfilling the mandate of the Court. With regards to the work of the committee, what I'd like to present, the results were also sent and presented to the states parties through the different reports, ICC ASP 2315 and ICC 2523.
Continue in English. I would like to start with some of the key figures and the context of the next year's budget proposal. The committee observed that the program budget for 2025 amounted to 206.2 million, including the host state loan of 3.6 million, representing an increase of 19.1 million, which means 10.2%, over the approved budget of 2024 that was 187.1 million, including the host state loan. The committee was informed that the increased budget requirements were primarily driven by the court's evolving operational environment, including increased investigative, pretrial, reparations, and appeal activities, continuing inflation, and responding to both operational and security challenges. Despite the assumptions and parameters for 2025, the court's workload is assumed to remain stable, though it can vary across its different organs. In looking closely at the 19.1 million increase, about 5 million will be necessary to cover unavoidable costs such as the United Nations Common System, obligations, and contractual inflation. An additional 1.2 million of unavoidable cost is associated with capital replacements and 2.9 million to fully funding the General Temporary Assistance, approved for 2024. That makes a total of 9.1 million of such costs, which are structurally determined, semi-automatic, and difficult to adjust in the framework of annual budget review. The remaining 10 million of the increase is requested to support growth in capacity and expertise across the court's operation and strengthen the overall security posture of the court. The committee thoroughly reviewed the budget assumptions, judicial activities, workload, inflationary pressures, and past cost trends. As a result, it recommended a total reduction of 6.7 million from the 2025 proposed program budget of 206.2 million. This will bring the recommended 2025 proposed program budget to 199.5 million, representing a total increase of 12.4 million, or 6.6%, compared to the approved 2024 budget of 187 million. Allow me now to brief you on the security blueprint and IT-related matters. The committee took an in-depth review of the court's security blueprint and IT-related matters being a critical issue. The committee identified several governance risk assessment weaknesses that require urgent attention to ensure the effectiveness of cybersecurity investments. The committee emphasized the need to improve cooperation and unity among the court's organs, particularly in establishing the new cybersecurity resilience measures. The committee recommended that the court establish a security blueprint ring-fenced investment budget, totally of 8.3 million for the period 2025-2027, similar to how the 5-year ITIM strategy was financed. For the period 2025-2027, the committee recommended freezing the lights-on cost at a total level of 17.5 million and allowing adjustments only for unavoidable cost from the common system and actual contract prices. To ensure budgetary accountability, the court should continue to report annually to the committee on the use of the IT cost across the court, as well on the implementation of the security blueprint. The committee recommended that the court amend its governance by 2025 to establish the one court principle, granting the head information security unit in the registry full control of the court's cybersecurity operations. Let me now move to reparations and extended mandate of the judges. The committee acknowledged that voluntary contributions to the Trust Fund for Victims in 2022 and 2023 amounted of 3.5 million per year. It expressed concern over the significant disparity between the expected future overflow of funds for reparations and the inflow of voluntary contributions, such as the register just informed. The committee expressed concerns regarding the substantial financial burden posed by the extended mandate of judges, along with the possible adverse effect on regular judicial transitions. However, it recommended the Chamber's 2025 objective to shorten the duration of proceedings through reforms aimed at process optimization and looked forward of seeing these improvements applied on the ongoing cases as well. Ladies and gentlemen, on travel cost and human resources management, the committee also noted that travel cost management and compliance with operational procedures need improvement across the court, acknowledging the different operational needs of various units and programs. The committee noted ongoing issues related to human resources management. Several posts and positions remain vacant for more than a year across major programs. In some cases, unspent resources from these vacancies were used to hire short-term appointments and consultants, while in other instances, the positions were simply left unfilled. The committee will keep following up on the gender balance and the geographical distribution in line with the state party's key objectives. Now, I will brief you on the trust funds. OTP Trust Fund for Advanced Technology and Specialized Capacity. The committee noted a total amount of 33.8 million in contributions pledged to the OTP Trust Fund, with 31.2 million received as of 31st August 2024. Out of this, 13.9 million has been spent and 27.4 million allotted. The remaining 2.6 million is expected by year end. Additionally, as of 1st September 2024, there are 54 secondment national experts working in the OTP across 28 teams with ongoing agreements with 33 entities. OTP Trust Fund Complementarity and Cooperation. The OTP Trust Fund for Complementarity and Cooperation was launched on 25th April of 2024. This fund supports programmatic complementary activities outside of the regular budget, aiding domestic proceedings in key situations. To date, 125,000 has been pledged, 105,000 received, and 53,600 spent by August 2024. OTP Trust Fund on Geographical Diversity. The Trust Fund on Geographical Diversity was established in December 2023. This fund provides financial support eligible state parties for the living and other expenses of deployed personnel. Contributions amounted to 702,000 have been pledged and received. A special fund for security. As at the end of August 2024, contributions to the Special Fund for Security managed by the registry total at 2.8 million, with 2.4 million received and 900,000 spent. This fund will be discontinued once depleted. I will now go into the contingency fund and premises. The court provided the committee with historical data spanning over 14 years, from 2010 to 2023, outlining approved budget levels, contingency fund notifications, and amount potentially required for new situations and unforeseen developments on ongoing situations. The committee recommended maintaining the The committee recommended maintaining the current notional contingency fund level at 7 million. The committee was of the opinion that an automatic replenishment mechanism up to the notional level of 7 million through assessed contributions should be envisaged. However, the current practice to absorb the expenses of the contingency fund by unspent budget funds should be maintained. The 2025 budget includes the short-term plan only, comprising an urgent investment of 1.6 million for direct capital replacements of those items related to health and safety of staff, legal compliance with statutory laws, and direct business continuity risk of the court. Pending decisions on a long-term capital replacement strategy, the court has continued to replace only those vulnerable elements that have already broken down or show signs of imminent breakdown, an approach carrying increased risk and the likelihood of higher costs in the longer term. This approach is not sustainable anymore. The mentioned interventions in the area of the court's heating and ventilation system and security are overdue. However, the committee reminded that the court of the principle that capital replacements must be fully justified and limited strictly to elements deemed absolutely necessary. On the evaluation of the Secretary of the Assembly, the committee reviewed the IOM report of the Secretary, SASP, during its 45th session and acknowledged the Assembly's resolution endorsing the IOM's recommendation. It noted that the Bureau, with support from the Court's Human Resources section, should implement the IOM's recommendation to restructure the Secretary functionally by early 2025. The Assembly also recommended reviewing position classifications during this transition. Meanwhile, the P5 post established in 2011 will report to the SASP Director. Recalling the P5 Executive Secretary role created in 2011, the enhanced technical support and improved committee operations, the committee highlights the following. First, resource allocation. Urges continuous technical resources for the CBF and AC to maintain efficiency, warning that removing support will regress standards. 2, involvement of restructuring. Recommends including the CBF and AC at all the stages of restructuring process. Third, reporting framework. Advocates the Executive Secretary report administratively to the SASP Director, but directly to the committees on substantive matters. Position reclassification. Stresses involving the staff union in restructuring and reclassifying positions. In conclusion, allow me to reiterate that the committee is your subsidiary body that will continue analyzing budgetary, financial, and administrative matters on their technical merits and in line with its mandate, and will continue providing expert and technical recommendations to the Assembly in close coordination with other oversight bodies based on the guidance by the Assembly, and with the objective to have a court that could deliver, but also that could be accountable and mindful of the use of resources. This concludes my remarks, Madam President. Muchas gracias por su atención.
I thank the Chair of the Committee on Budget and Finance for her intervention. We now move to agenda item 16, consideration of the audit reports. I draw your attention to the following documentation before the Assembly. The financial statements of the International Criminal Court for the year ended 31st December 23, document ICC-ASP23/12, and the financial statement of the Trust Fund for Victims for the year 31st December 23, the year that ended 31st December 23, in document ICC-ASP/23/13. The Assembly will also consider the reports of the Audit Committee on its 19th and 20th sessions, which are available on the website of the Assembly. I will give first floor to Mr. Werner Drummel, the Acting Chair of the Audit Committee.
Thank you very much, Madam President, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to thank you for the opportunity to address you today and to present the main outcomes of our discussions at the 19th and 20th session of the Audit Committee. May I also take this opportunity to reiterate my appreciation to my colleagues from the committee for their devotion and hard work, and to the representatives of the court for their participation and valuable contributions in our meetings. I would also like to thank our Executive Secretary and his team for their constant hard work and effective support to the committee throughout the year, upon which we rely immensely. I will now briefly summarize the main discussions of the committee's 19th and 20th session. The committee focused at its 2 sessions on ethics, risk management, oversight of internal audit matters, oversight of external audit matters, audit committee matters, and other relevant issues. First, ethics. Under ethics, the court was of the view that embedding its core values into its culture was necessary before developing a written ethics charter. The committee, although it acknowledges this perspective, emphasized and reiterated its position that a formal written ethics charter is crucial for a positive work culture and an effective internal justice system. The committee has asked, therefore, the court to present an initial draft of the charter at its next session in February 25. 2. Risk management. The committee met at a crucial time to address significant risks, including the data breach incident in 2023 and its future implications. Despite reviewing mitigation strategies, ongoing risks persist due to evolving cyber threats. Additionally, high-profile cases under the court's review are drawing intense international attention, potentially leading to major consequences. The committee commended the court on the efforts undertaken to update its risk register while keeping the committee informed about decisions and risks. 3. Overview of internal audit matters. The committee made several observations to enhance the efficiency of internal audits in the areas of planning, staff deployment, and client engagement. The committee recommended that annual work plans of the Office of Internal Audit be approved by the Coordination Council on a timely basis so that the OIA can operate according to an institutionally approved plan. The committee suggested that the OIA maintain a multi-year rolling work plan to give a better indication of the scope of risk coverage over time and to facilitate the audit planning process. The committee noted also that a significant number of audit recommendations were still outstanding. In this context, the committee reiterated the importance of the tone at the top, which is generally recognized as foundational to an effective control environment. It also expressed concern about the low number of internal audit outputs. Such outputs are crucial for compliance and business process effectiveness. 4. Overview of external audit matters. The committee commended the comprehensive performance audit report on cybersecurity by the Board of Audit and Inspection of the Republic of Korea, the external auditor, and noted that it will be an important contribution for the set of initiatives underway to address ongoing risks. The committee also noted that the external auditor gave an unmodified opinion on the financial statements of the court and of the Trust Fund for Victims for 2023. The committee recommended that the Assembly approve the renewal of the contract for audit services awarded to the current Board of Audit and Inspections of the Republic of Korea as the external auditor of the court for the financial year 2025 to 2028, with the expectation that there would be constructive discussions between the court, the Board of Audit and Inspection, and the Audit Committee on issues identified. On other matters, the AC engaged in discussions with the registrar, notably focusing on cybersecurity and the ethics framework. It is crucial for the committee to continue addressing these issues moving forward. The discussions laid a solid foundation for ongoing dialogue and development in these crucial areas. And finally, audit committee matters. Under audit committee matters, I would like to focus on two main topics: the amendments to the audit committee charter and the evaluation of the Secretariat of the ASP. On the charter, the committee had submitted an amended charter to the states parties, which it considered to be appropriate and embodying the best practices. The proposed draft amendments were discussed under the Budget Management Oversight Facilitation and have mostly not been retained. Additional proposed amendments were added and were agreed upon under silence procedure. The committee would like to raise concerns only on one issue, about amendments proposed on the composition of the selection panel for selecting new members. The committee supports the involvement of the budget facilitator in the selection process alongside the ASP president. This addition provides an extra layer of governance for the court. The inclusion, however, of the registrar or his or her representative raises the basic question of conflict of interest and the impairment of independence of the court, of the committee. The absence of the chair of the audit committee, on the other hand, from the selection process is a concern for the AC. The inclusion of an independent expert with the necessary knowledge and expertise to assess the technical proficiency of the applicants should therefore be considered. I move now to very shortly to the evaluation of the Secretariat. The Audit Committee shares the position of the CBF, which just has been explained by my colleague, concerning the restructuring of the Secretariat, and the AC had informed when requested so the President about its concerns. Dedicated support throughout the year and at an appropriate level is of utmost importance. The Audit Committee expects, therefore, to be involved in the discussions with the incoming director. In conclusion, allow me to reiterate that the Audit Committee is an important element in the oversight system of the court. It assists and advises the Assembly on the court's, in its oversight on the court's operations. Thank you very much for your attention.
I thank Mr. Drummel for his intervention. I will now give the floor to the representative of the external auditor, Mr. Yang Shang-Shaw.
Thank you for giving me the floor. Madam President, Your Excellencies and distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, it's my honor to present to you today the report prepared by the External Auditor during 2024. In accordance with Article 12 of the Financial Rules and Regulations of the International Criminal Court, I'm Yang Chan-jo, Director of the Division of Audit on International Organizations from the Board of Audit and Inspection of the Republic of Korea. I'm here today on behalf of the External Auditor, Mr. Jae Choi, Chair of the BAI. He expresses his deep regret for not being able to make this presentation himself. I would like to give you a brief overview of the 3 audit reports which were issued in 2024 by the External Auditor. Financial statement of the ICC for the year ended 31st December 2023, financial statement of the Trust Fund for Victims for the year ended 31st December 2023, and performance audit on cybersecurity. Based on the financial audit, the External Auditor believes that the accompanying financial statement present fairly in all material respects for the 2023, and audit evidence that has been obtained is sufficient and appropriate. Therefore, the External Auditor provided unmodified audit opinion on the 2023 financial statement for both the ICC and the Trust Fund for Victims. Now, I would like to address the audit report on the financial statement of the ICC for the financial year 2023. Regarding the financial position, total assets increased primarily due to a significant rise in cash and cash equivalent, despite a decrease in account receivable. At the same time, total liabilities declined, largely driven by reductions in deferred revenue and accrued expenses. Regarding the financial performance, it was found that both total revenues and expenses experienced substantial growth in 2023. The major part of our revenues, assessed contributions, saw a notable increase. Alongside the significant rise in voluntary contributions. On the expenses side, employee benefit expenses, which form a significant portion of our total expenses, also increased. In the 2023 financial audit, the External Auditor examined travel expenses, the OTP Trust Fund, and asset management in light of the following circumstances. First, travel expenses were reviewed due to their increasing trend and concerns over excessive allocation. Second, the OTP Trust Fund was analyzed to address concerns about its potential impact on the regular budget. Lastly, asset management was assessed as risk factors in internal controls were identified during the interim audit. The External Auditor made 9 recommendations as follows. Regarding travel expenses, the External Auditor recommended improving the approval process for business trips to address delays and ensure compliance with home leave approvals. Strengthening control procedures were also recommended, as 12% of the trips in 2023 were retroactively approved. Additionally, the External Auditor recommended enhancing internal controls, as nearly half of the travel expenses report for 2022 and 2023 was submitted late. Finally, the improvement in the travel budget formulation process were recommended to address discrepancies between budgeted and actual travel expenses. With respect to the OTP Trust Fund, the External Auditor noted that only 13.8% of the fund was utilized by the end of 2023, and recommended developing measures to improve the execution rate. The External Auditor also recommended implementing a regular monitoring system, as the current system mainly focuses on financial aspects. Lastly, the External Auditor recommended implementing internal control procedures to assess the trust fund impact on the regular budget before execution, as the OTP has not fully established such procedures. In terms of asset management, a significant number of assets remained unverified, and inefficiencies were found in a barcode method. Thus, the external auditor recommended developing a plan to improve asset management and establish internal controls. Allow me to present the audit report on the financial statement of the Trust Fund for Victims, including its financial position and performance for 2023. Regarding the financial position, total assets decreased, primarily due to a reduction in cash and cash equivalent. Provisions, which made up of a significant portion of total liabilities, slightly decreased from the previous year. Net assets and equity also declined significantly. Regarding the financial performance, the deficit trend has continued from the previous year, mainly due to voluntary contributions, which do not exceed program expenses. However, there was an increase in total revenue, driven by a growth in assessed contributions. In the 2023 Trust Fund for Victim Financial Audit, the external auditor focused on the mobilization of resources due to the significant expansion of the reparation program and the anticipated increase in prosecuted cases. The external auditor made 3 recommendations as follows. The external auditor found that the Trust Fund for Victims lacks consistent fundraising strategies and recommended establishing systematic plans to secure the resources needed for its mission. Regarding the strategic plan goals and implementation, the external auditor recommended developing future strategic plans, including KPIs, as the Trust Fund for Victims plan had no specific fundraising targets or performance indicators. In 2024, the external auditor conducted a performance audit on the ICC's cybersecurity to assess its status and enhance confidentiality, integrity, and availability. The audit focused on policies and governance in accordance with international standards. For reference, the audit placed less emphasis on technical reviews, and the external auditor did not perform a penetration test, as the ICC stated that it had already investigated the cause of the cybersecurity incident in September 2023. Furthermore, some disclosures were made according to the ICC's consultation, while cybersecurity audit results are typically confidential. Although certain portions were redacted, I believe this presentation still provides an overview of key issues in the court cybersecurity area. At the beginning of the audit, the external auditor conducted a vulnerability assessment and made 3 recommendations with a focus on confidentiality, integrity, and availability. From the confidentiality perspective, the external auditor identified areas for improvement in access right and data leakage prevention. In this regard, the external auditor provided recommendations such as implementing strong authentication controls. From the integrity perspective, the external auditor highlighted areas for improvement in prevention and protection, and made recommendations such as implementation of controls to protect against malicious software. Lastly, from the availability perspective, the external auditor recommended actions such as developing business continuity plans and disaster recovery plans. The external auditor found the main causes of these vulnerabilities in the issues related to governance for cybersecurity, risk management, and internal controls, and made 5 recommendations. In terms of governance, the ICC has not updated its high-level information security policy, making information security activities challenging to align with the latest international standard. Thus, the external auditor recommended revising the high-level ISP to follow the latest one. Moreover, the external auditor recommended expediting the revision of data classification levels and ensuring that the Information Management Governance Board actively fulfills its governance role in cybersecurity, and that the Information Management Security section reports issues to the governing body in a timely manner. Regarding risk management, the external auditor recommended that the ICC define its risk appetite for non-strategic cybersecurity risks. Additionally, given the technical vulnerabilities identified through penetration tests and automated scans, the external auditor recommended allocating sufficient priority and resources to address these issues. Lastly, in terms of internal control, the external auditor noticed that some of the recommendations made by the Office of Internal Audit regarding cybersecurity and IT governance over the past decades were either not accepted, acknowledged as risks, or not implemented on time. Madam President, I would like to conclude my presentation and also extend my appreciation to all of you for giving me the opportunity to deliver my presentation. The external auditor hopes that these efforts contribute to improving the performance of the ICC. Thank you.
I thank Mr. Yang Chang-shou for his intervention. We have thus concluded our business for this plenary. The discussion on these matters will continue in the working group on program budget, which will meet in this room in 5 minutes after the adjournment of this meeting. This meeting is adjourned.
Yeah.